ladies and gentlemen, my name is Coze, and welcome to whatever I end up thinking about calling this show. There's no name for it, it's just what it is. Talking back and forth, communication, getting feedback, feeding back, receiving the feedback. What do all these words have in common? Communication. Today's episode's about talking to developers and developers talking back to customers. Yeah. So, what's important about this idea? The core idea of I'm a single person who can yell at somebody and they can yell back at me about a game. What's important about this? Well, first of all, the fact that you can do it. You can write a letter to somebody who's making a book or who's written a book, or you can, send a letter into somebody who's created a movie. But it's not like they can change anything. They can't really reshoot the movie from your feedback. They can't rewrite the book from your feedback. But a game company can. They can change how balance works. They can adjust things about the game. Now, some of it, of course, they can't because of how deeply embedded it is in code or whatever, but they can do a lot. Maybe not as much as you think, and maybe more than you can think, but they can do plenty to adjust their game. And I think it's important that both consumers and companies, not publishers, but companies, recognize this. Ideally, in this sort of communication back and forth, you don't have to go through a publisher, because the publisher isn't exactly the developer. They kind of are, but they aren't like the people who are making the game. They're just responsible for making sure the game's being made. Even that falls to producers within the company, but it's neither here nor there. And obviously the perfect example of this sort of back and forth communication has to happen with independent companies, or smaller companies, and even some larger small companies. Think about Digital Extremes and Warframe. That's a very community back and forth game over Twitter or through the subreddit. They have live streams every week where they talk about the upcoming patch, and they constantly exchange information back and forth with people playing the game. Of course, there's forums. Forums are the long-standing let's bitch at people so they can bitch back at us landscape in gaming. And typically this sort of stuff really happens more with competitive games, which is very true. I mean, of course, there's always going to be discussion on a very intense single-player game. You think about Mass Effect and think about how much that discussion happened after Mass Effect 3. Those were insane forums after Mass Effect 3 came out. Oh my god. It'd be hard to be somebody who worked on that game and go, I have to read through all of this stuff about people who don't like the ending. Oh god. But this is really important for us as a consumer, because then it feels like our voice is being heard. And I personally feel that a subreddit is the best way to do this, because you have that upvote system and people can agree with it a lot easier than someone posting in a forum and going, I like this, and just having like 20,000 pages of replies, which is kind of wonky. But instead having, this is what we're thinking of doing in this patch, and you see a bunch of people talking about it in a more organized manner. This is why I really like Reddit for discussion about this sort of stuff. I know some people don't like it, but if you create your own isolated community, you can have amazing discussions. And they're plugged for Awesome Knots, because if you aren't playing that game, play that freaking game. The discussion that we have there in that subreddit is always very active. The developers are generally showing up a lot in that subreddit, where we're talking about, okay, well, this is what I think about, this character might be overpowered, this is how I think they could fix it, and it's very easy to have this back and forth. And the back and forth between developers and other customers, and customers to customers, and then having those ideas bounce off developers, is that you feel like you're impacting the game more than normal. And this is very important for the developers to recognize, because if you're making the game and you realize we're doing this thing that people aren't liking, let's try what they're saying. Let's see how it works. First of all, we're going to put in our own, our testing labs and see, maybe this throws off the balance immensely, and we have to scrap it and flip a table and go, no, you guys, it isn't working. But I wish more companies would admit that that's what happens. Because off and on, people will take in the feedback that you've suggested, and they try it, and they go, oh my god, this completely screws the game, or it's something that they just can't do. If they have to completely rewrite something, they might not want to do it. It's all about making it easy for ourselves, right? Until they want to make a big patch, or they, do an expansion or something. Starstorm, Awesomenots, wink. So I hope that, as a customer, and as a consumer, and as a gamer, we recognize that these smaller companies, like Ronimo and Digital Extreme, are really able to do this in a very unique way, and we should take advantage of it in the best way possible. Now, what about larger companies? There's a lot more things to go through. You have, a lot more people playing. It's got a larger game population, obviously, hopefully, in theory. You have a publisher you have to go through in some cases, and sometimes it's, throwing a glass bottle into a stack of glass bottles and hoping yours gets, picked up. But there's a different way to approach this. And Gearbox Software, once again, has managed to do it with Gearbox Community Day, which was held at the Gearbox. Well, it was held in Dallas, which is near Gearbox, and it was just show up and have fun with us. Let's talk about what we're doing, and that can't be beaten. Genuinely going and talking to developers live, as awesome as tweeting back and forth is, as awesome as typing on a forum or whatever is, going to the developer and saying, this is what I think, and having them go, I understand why you think. That doesn't get that. You can't beat that. Whenever I go to an event, I always love talking to either a small developer or a large developer, because I love immediate feedback. And I hope that they do as well, because feedback's always good, yes? No? It's how you improve things, right? You get something wrong in a test, you want to know why it was wrong, so why don't you ask the teacher and find out why? Huh? So I hope both us, the gamers and the consumers, can take some away from this, and I hope that if you're a developer and you watch this, whether you're a small 5-person team or you're on a 500-person team, you can recognize that maybe we should try something a little bit special and stand out and realize that the community loves us and that we should love them back, because we love you. Do you love us? Please. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can take away something from this, because it's a little weird of a subject, but as it becomes more prevalent and as connectivity becomes more constant, I think we're going to see more of this. I hope we do. But thank you for watching, and I shall see all of you